Chapter 14. ADKAR Applications. ADKAR is a model for enabling change. ADKAR provides a goal-oriented framework that helps change leaders realize their objectives more quickly and completely. Applications for the model include 1. A learning tool for teaching change management, especially when analyzing case studies of successful and failed changes. 2. A tool for change management teams to assess the readiness of their change management plans and guide their activities. 3. A coaching tool for managers and supervisors during change. 4. An assessment tool for diagnosing changes underway and identifying potential barrier points to change. 5. A planning tool for change. ADKAR as a device for teaching change management. ADKAR can be used as a helpful teaching tool for change management. The following case study illustrates how classroom discussions can be guided by the ADKAR model. When national healthcare reform for the U.S. was attempted in the 1990s under the Clinton administration, tremendous energy was focused on developing the right healthcare program. Casts of hundreds provided input and guidance into writing the final proposal. Despite the energy and time invested by the policy reform team to prepare the best reform plan, the change failed. In this article, What Happened to Healthcare Reform?, Paul Starr states, not just the Clinton plan was defeated. Every other proposal, the Cooper, Chaffee, Moynihan, Mitchell, Cooper and Grandy, and mainstream group plans to mention only the most prominent consensus-building efforts, died in Congress. As a member of the health policy team, Starr was at the epicenter of this story. He tells of political maneuvering and strategies by both Democrats and Republicans that moved healthcare reform initially forward and then irreversibly backward toward the ultimate demise of healthcare reform under the Clinton administration. What's of interest in this case study is that failure came from an erosion of support, not a lack of knowledge. In the end, every proposal failed, even those from both sides of the aisle in Congress. The focus was on creating the right reform plan. The cause of the failure, however, was rooted in lack of desire, not a lack of knowledge around the reform effort. Starr writes that two particular factors may have influenced the overall perception and mood toward healthcare reform. First, healthcare was overshadowed by other priorities for the Clinton administration, including the economy, and winning approval for his budget during the early part of his term. As with many changes, when sponsorship is absent, the awareness of the need for change and support for the change diminish as well. Second, healthcare reform was labeled as the Clinton plan. Starr writes, by putting his personal signature on healthcare reform, moreover, Clinton gave the Republicans an incentive to defeat it and humiliate him rather than compromise. In the end, support also eroded on the part of small businesses, lobbies, and health insurance companies. They didn't just resist a particular element of healthcare reform. They resisted the change in general. An active television campaign directed at the American public cemented the death of this change. In the context of the ADKAR model, this change failed from lack of desire, not from lack of knowledge. Starr concludes his article by stating that the lesson for next time in health reform is faster, smaller. In other words, your change cannot be larger than your sponsorship coalition can support, for it is that sponsorship coalition and their activities that facilitate a desire to change. In the absence of desire, no amount of knowledge can produce change. It's also possible that the policy reform team blurred awareness with desire. In the presence of very high awareness of the need for change, a common mistake is to assume that desire to support the change automatically follows. While it was evident that the American public was very aware that more and more people lacked health care coverage, support for widespread and dramatic reform in health care was sufficiently low to prevent passing of any new legislation. From an educational perspective, the case study can be analyzed in segments. ADKAR allows a student of change management to make a clear delineation between knowledge and desire, and the nuances between awareness of a need for change and desire to support a change can be studied and discussed. As an educational framework, ADKAR focuses conversations toward the primary building blocks for successful change. Rather than have random classroom discussions that range from one end of the spectrum to another, each element of the ADKAR model can be addressed separately. When combined with the analysis of successful changes, like the Green Hotels case study, students of change can learn the dynamics of the change process. ADKAR, to assist with organizational change management planning. Project teams that are applying change management will usually prepare plans for communications, sponsorship activities, training programs, coaching plans, and other change management activities. The ADKAR model can be used as a checklist to evaluate the completeness and potential impact of these plans. For example, assume that you have prepared a communications plan for your project. When complete, the communications plan should include your key messages, a schedule of events, the delivery mechanism for each event, and the sender of the communication. If an ADKAR assessment of this plan were completed for the first element of the model, awareness, the questions would include: what elements in your communications plan include awareness-building programs or activities? Do your key messages for building awareness include why the change is happening, the risk of not changing, and the internal or external drivers that created the need for the change? How many times are these awareness messages reinforced throughout the entire communications plan? Is the awareness message sent by the primary sponsor? Is that awareness message reinforced by employees' direct supervisors? Are awareness messages sent only at the beginning of the project, or do they continue during implementation? And how will you gather feedback from employees to determine their level of awareness of the need for this change? As the change management team works through all of their plans, ADKAR helps ensure that activities occur in the right sequence. For example, training should not preclude communications and sponsorship activities that build awareness and desire. If these activities are out of order, education programs fail because students aren't yet ready to engage in the change. To ensure that change management activities remain properly sequenced and aligned with employee readiness, checks can be performed at different stages of the process. For example, communications designed to produce awareness can be assessed for their effectiveness through employee feedback. Sponsorship activities designed to create desire can be assessed through supervisor interviews. Training programs designed to build knowledge can be assessed with training feedback and assessment tools during the training session. This process enables a project team to gather feedback throughout the process and ensure that change management activities are having the results they were expecting. I often encourage teams to use ADKAR like a litmus test. Apply the model to your completed plans and ask yourself, will our plans create the necessary building blocks for successful change? Through this process, the team can refine and guide their change management work, then collect feedback from employees and managers and evaluate whether your change management activities accomplish their intended goals.